Welcome to Camaraderie, a channel where I give up my time and money for some reason in the name of art. This video is sponsored by this little beam of light right here coming in through my window. This is the Nikon Tele Touch Deluxe, also known as the TW2 outside of the US. Bugger is actually pretty hard to find some solid information on, because you see, unlike the Contax T line, which experienced a pretty significant resurgence in popularity thanks to the likes of Kendall, Aziz, Frank, and Chris, the Tele Touch Deluxe has not been afforded the same opportunities as its point-and-shoot brethren. At face value, it seems like this camera is just kind of destined to be a forgotten relic of a long lost time. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this particular camera is it's gonna stay that way. Like I said a second ago, it's hard to find information on this camera. If you look up Nikon Tele Touch, you're most likely just gonna find information on the Tele Touch 300. It also doesn't help that this camera doesn't have the TW2 markings on the front, nor does it say Deluxe anywhere except on the packaging that it didn't come with, since I got this camera like 6 or 7 years ago at a Goodwill or something. So anyways, this little light capturing device came out in sometime in 1987, and this design is going to be something that's pretty straightforward if you're at all familiar with kind of how point-and-shoot cameras were around this time. It's got a bit of a brickish design, and there's not really much in the way of ergonomics other than this little bump on the side. And believe it or not, this was marketed as the thinnest camera in the world at the time. All you need to get rolling is a CRP2 battery. Loading is a snap. You just pull your film meter across the chamber and away you go. The top of the camera is where you'll find all but one of the controls. The on and off switch is on the front, but up top you've got some pretty mushy buttons for the flash control, self-timer, and a rewind button in case you need to rewind in the middle of your roll for some reason. The LCD screen shows you all the information related to those buttons, and on the right you've got the shutter button as well as this buttony button that buttons between the two focal lengths. This is easily the most enjoyable button for me because just so many things happen when you push it. You get a satisfying whirring sound as the barrel extends out from the front. The viewfinder gets switched out, and you get a different flash diffuser. Once you've drained the battery because you've had too much fun pressing the focal length button too many times, put another battery in, and then you can finally get started. Inside the viewfinder, you'll find some parallax lines to help with framing your shots, and a couple little LEDs that indicate if you've got focus locked down or if your shot is too dark. One more thing, the double focal length barrel also has a little soft effect ring at the front that you can switch to if you want that dreamy Vaseline smeared 80s glam shot vibe. So how's it shoot? First took this bad boy for a spin last summer when I drove up to Maryland to go to Kmart. I remember being pretty impressed with the accuracy of the autofocus, but my biggest gripe has got to be the flash setting button. See, it resets to auto each time that you press the shutter release. So if you're in a situation like I was, where you're in Kmart and you're taking a lot of shots inside and you don't want to be blinding all two people that are still shopping at Kmart, then you have to make sure to cycle through the flash control settings every time you take a shot. That's not the worst thing in the world. At least it's not like the Kodak VR35 that I reviewed a long time ago, where you just don't even have the option to disable the flash. So it's at least better than that, right? It's still annoying though that you have to deal with that every single time you shoot your shot. Let's try this. How's that? Is that any better? Even if it reset like every time you turn the camera off and then back on, that would at least be better than having to do it after every single shot. Like I said, not the worst thing in the world, but what the worst thing in the world is that I thought this camera was busted the next time that I used it. I took it with me on my recent trip out west just to kind of give it another go and see if it could unseat the quick shooter Tele, the AFLT, as my point and shoot go-to choice. My go-to choice of point and shoot. There we go. And yeah, no, it kept rewinding in the middle of the roll.
Oh, why? See, this is dumb. This is dumb. Just like it's like pressed all the way in somehow. So like if you barely touch it, it starts rewinding. I just really hope I'm not like quadruple exposing these first.
Up, up.
I feel better about this. Gotta go all the way to 18. This is great. This is awesome. I'm not even doing it, man.
Turns out that the way this type of auto advance mechanism works is that it just relies on pressure. So basically it'll just pull on the film, and then if it detects anything, any sort of resistance, then it is like, oh, I'm at the end of the roll, and just winds back in. Even if you've only gone through like 4 shots. So at first, when I found that out, I thought there was maybe like some gunk caught in the gears or something inside, but no, that wasn't the case. It turns out it is the battery's fault, and fair play to me, fair play to it. It's just been sitting in there draining a little bit every day for like a year. So, but it had enough battery to turn on and to even operate the flash and everything. But it's like just not enough power to give it a convincing tug in order for it to get to the next frame and not rewind in the middle of the roll. Once I figured that out though, I thought it'd be cool to take some self-rolled black and white film out for a quick stroll and test out the soft effect filter. Quick note, this camera does work off of DX codes, so if you have an unmarked roll of film, say for instance that you've loaded yourself, or is just an old expired roll that doesn't have a DX code because it was made before DX codes were a thing, this camera does automatically assume that you've got 100 speed film for some reason. I guess maybe that was like the most common back then. I don't know, but anyways, it reads it as if it's 100 speed film rather than a 400 speed. So all you have to do is just kind of keep that in mind. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't go shooting a lot of really dark scenes, because it's just not gonna know what to do, because it's like, I don't have enough light. And it's like, yes you do. Oh, but I really, my sensors tell me otherwise. As long as you're not shooting like indoor photography at night, you should be fine, but you will definitely want to keep that in mind for when you get your film developed, because you're gonna have to, if for instance you've got like a 400 speed film like I did, then you'll need to pull it 2 stops in developing. And honestly, I think the results actually kind of came out fine for me. I think the Nikon glass does a lot of the heavy lifting here. The wide lens has a 35mm focal length with a maximum f-stop of 3.5, and the tele setting has a 70mm focal length with a max f-stop of 6.8. So this isn't exactly going to produce mind-blowing results in darker settings, but the sharpness is still pretty solid, especially for a cheap point and shoot. The autofocus has been actually pretty spot on for me, though I have heard it has trouble shooting through windows or taking pictures with a significant amount of water, because apparently the infrared beam gets tripped up by reflective or transparent surfaces. That's pretty much it for the Nikon Tele Touch Deluxe. If you run across one and want to try it out, give it a shot. You know, who knows, maybe it'll become your next go-to point and shoot camera. Is this the poor man's T2. I honestly don't know enough to say. I've never had the film gods bless me in such a magnanimous way. But I do know it's way cheaper, and I really like the optics. I think that kind of gives it a step up over a lot of the competition from this era. I definitely recommend it as a camera that might have some quirks for you to keep in mind, but it does just what it's supposed to. It points and it shoots. That's all I've got for you today. Let me know in the comments what your favorite point and shoot is. Mine, I think I mentioned earlier, is probably the AFLT at this point from Olympus, but I still like taking this one out and about every now and again. I'll be on this side of the lens in the next video, so until then, see ya.